Hello and welcome to the final devlog of the firefighting playdate game, which is finally named as Fireteam. In this final week, I've gone through and added new art and animations across the game to allow the game to look so much better and like an actual game. We'll start off by showing you the title screen. Here you can see the title of the game, Fireteam, surrounded by flames with Barry and Larry to the right of the screen, showing press A to start along the bottom of the screen. This looks infinitely better than the old title screen, which was, well, blank. Onto the menus. First up is the start day screen, still showing the day and the amount of reputation points along the top of the screen, with a nice background, which is a building surrounded by fire, and the actual menu is a computer screen. The shop screen is the same, but instead shows the upgrades that can be purchased. And finally we have the job selection screen, which has the same background and menu, but this time with Barry and Larry on either side, bobbing up and down, eagerly awaiting the next fire they're there to put out. The main game scene has had quite the change compared to the previous rectangles and poorly drawn fire. The building is now a 9-slice image, which means the building can be scaled to any size without losing its quality. The windows are all now images, which means they look way better, and there are different styles of windows. The 2-door fully open window currently in the game, the same window with either the left or right window closed, or with both closed, and a sliding open window which comes closed, half open, or fully open. We can't forget the lovely fire animation that we now have, which looks really good and gives the building and fire some life. The cursor is now better looking, being a circle with a dot in the centre rather than just a circle like it was before. It also now changes to the splash animation while shooting water, which helps to distinguish whether you're shooting or not, even though the water tank on the right of the screen should also make that clear by going down. Finally, in addition to the burning building, there is a building burning bar, or a health bar of sorts, to the left of the screen, which makes it clear that there are still fires to put out, whether you can see them on your screen or not. There's also now some buildings in the background, which stops you being set in a void, extinguishing a burning building. Finally, we have the ladder scene, which shows the ladder container, where you can wind the ladder as high as you want with a nice animation. Now that I've shown you all of the nice artwork, I'll show you how I implemented it. In the job selection screen, Barry and Larry were implemented by defining them as images and adding an animator, which has a start and an end coordinate to state where the animation starts and ends. This is also set to reverse so that they go back down, and is set to infinitely loop, meaning they will always bob up and down. Barry's animator also has a delay so that they aren't bobbing up and down at the same time, as that felt weird to look at. To make them bob up and down, I just used their draw function, passing in the animator's current value as the Y coordinate. The fire animation loop was also easily done by using the animator core library, as I just had to create an animation loop using an image table. This was done by running firetable equals gfx.imagetable.new, passing in the path to the images. For me, this is /images/building/fire/fire, where the final fire is the name of the file. Since my fire images were all separate images, I had to ensure that they were named properly. For example, fire-table-0. Here, the fire is the name of the file and what is used to define it. Where -table-number is left in the playdate note, it's a part of an image table, and the number is the position of the table it should be in. Finally, to have the animation work, I update the fire sprite update function to set the image to the current image in the fire animation. When implementing the image for the building, I needed to be able to adjust its Z-index so that it was placed correctly behind the windows and fire put in front of the background images. This requirement meant that the building had to be a sprite so that I could use the sprite.setZindex function. Unfortunately, setting the image of a sprite to be a 9-slice isn't as simple as setting the image variable of a sprite. To do this, I first had to create the sprite by doing sprite building equals gfx.sprite:new, followed by creating the 9-slice image by doing building image equals gfx.9slice.new, passing the variables of the location of the building image file, and defining the center of the 9-slice with the x and y variables and the height and width variables, which conveniently were all 60 for this image. We then have to set the image of the sprite by calling spritebuilding:setImage and passing in gfx.image.new, and passing in the width and height, where I calculated the width and height of the building and had to add an extra bit of height, which I call the door adjustment, as otherwise it wouldn't render the door. Then we assert the building image to ensure that it is a valid image to prevent an error later on. Then we do the final setup of the sprite. In my case this is setting the Z index, changing the center of the sprite to the top left, as this meant that I didn't have to change the X and Y coordinates that I had previously calculated, and then finally set the location of the sprite with the move to function, and then added the sprite with the add sprite function to send it to be updated. Now that the sprite and image have both been defined, we need to draw it. In the draw building function, I call gfx.lockFocus, passing in sprite building get image, as this will route all the drawing to the given image. What this means is instead of the entire screen being the canvas for drawing, it's now only the bounds of the image which we defined earlier. Because of this, we can now draw the 9 slice on the sprite, which we do by calling building image drawing rect, passing in parameters for the x, y, width and height. I pass 0 for the x and y, as this sets the origin of the 9 slice to the origin of the drawing space, which is the top left corner. We then do the same calculation for the width and height as before, and then unlock the focus so that we can continue drawing everything else like normal. That's all of the art in the game added and working, which means that this project has come to an end. Whilst there are many more things to add to the game to really finish and polish it off, such as tutorial, sound, more levels, but my time for working on it has unfortunately come to pass. If you have a playdate and wish to play the game, you can find it on itch.io and there will be a link in the description below. I hope that throughout the series, I have been able to inspire you to start a new project, whether that's a game, an app, or even building a shed. Perhaps you could also do a video log to show your progress and allow you to reflect and learn on what you have done. If you do, feel free to share it below along with any suggestions for anything you'd like me to work on next. With that said, I thank you for watching this series and this video, and bid you farewell. Cheerio!